Get it with this one. There we go. We got it.
Okay, no, I want that. Would you all mind coming this way? So we've got this camera stuff set up. I'm Bob.
Where do you want it?
Just any place over here.
Over there?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Excuse me.
And then that way y'all can go around the table too.
Reminds me I'm hungry.
Okay. You got me lined up?
Perfect.
Okay. I am Dr. Bard. I'm an optometrist, and I'm here to tell you why you ought to be buying food here and from me. But whether you buy ours doesn't matter. You need the quality is the point of it. Around 1999, I told my wife I would never eat meat out of another grocery store again because I know what they put in it. And the fact is that's when we started raising cows. We started raising miniature Herefords because when you get older, they're easier to handle. But we ran DNA tests and found out that they were tough. They had no genes for marbling and tenderness and stuff. So I ran into this lady down in Crockett, Texas, if you all know down towards Palestine, down in that area. She raised lowline Angus that they started importing from Australia in 1998. And we ran DNA tests on them, and they had marbling genes and tenderness genes, and they were bigger, stockier, but short legs. So they're not really considered miniatures. They're more like what you would find in the United States before 1950. Now understand that the beef thing, you probably don't want to hear this one, Chuck. Okay. The problem was the beef in the last 50 years, 60 years has been designed to make corporations money and to heck with you. Doesn't have anything to do with taste, doesn't have anything. It's all about you them making money at your expense. So, I don't know whether you know this, but feedlots do not make money selling beef. They make money selling grain. So they sell the cows to some idiot in Chicago or someplace else that buys these futures, and then they feed them grain. And the longer they can keep them in there, then the more money they make. So what we've had is we've bred animals for the last 60 years to meet their model. And if you notice, if you go up and down, this is your test, you get to watch this. As you go up and down the highway, look for cows. The longer the legs, the tougher they are, the poorer they taste. I mean, that's just a fact. You try it. Get a short, stocky one versus the other. So then, we're going to concentrate this stuff. CAFOs, concentrated animal
Farm operation.
Farm operations, that's it. And as you well know, it's not sustainable. It's filthy, it's polluting, and everything else. To give you an idea, there's a book out called Steak, written by some guy from Chicago, and he's talking about his quest for the perfect steak. And the first chapter is feedlot beef in West Texas. Now, of course, this applies to Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, and the whole 9 yards. But the first thing they do is they wanted these things to take 5 months to mature. So where did they get it at? They went to the continental breeds from the continent, and cows from, say, Switzerland, France, were not only did they eat them and they got milk, but they were work animals. That's why they're so tough. And so if you used our English breeds in 1950 and put them in a feedlot, they would finish in 2 weeks. They couldn't make money that way. So that's why they started this breeding up stuff and what have you. Now, from the book Steak, that first chapter, one of the things they do, well, they use corn, but the one thing that you don't know is they put hormones. They put at least 6 to 8 hormones in the ears of cows. Nothing more than Arnold Schwarzenegger bulking up. That's all it is. It's cheating us out of food. And incidentally, that stuff is always put in the ear, and then when the cattle's slaughtered, the ears go to be processed because it's cartilage, and the cartilage is converted over to gelatin, and then it's put in jams and jellies. So if you eat jams and jellies, I don't know which brands, but you're going to get hormones out of some of them. Then, of course, then they put them on grain, and the grain is corn. It's all genetically engineered today. They feed them this massive amount to get them up to a certain level, and if they have a pen, I mean they do have a pen, if they have this pen, they wait till one or two die, and then they know they've reached the level they want, and then they cut the corn back a little bit. But the corn is so toxic it creates abscesses in their liver. Now, needless to say, I don't eat liver from stores either. But I mean, the bottom line is none of this is geared for our health. Now, the other problem, though, is, you know what the average age of a farmer is in this country? About 60. Now, have y'all ever heard of COOL, country of origin labeling? Now, you're supposed to get warm and fuzzy over this and salute the flag, because if you know if it comes to the United States, it's the best. Now, that's a bunch of stuff. The point being is, it's not. But in other words, if I had a choice from a steak from Brazil or Argentina or even Mexico for that matter, I would take that over U.S. Now, what they want to say is they're using chemicals down there that aren't regulated. No, they're not using chemicals because they can't afford it. When you buy produce in a market in Mexico, I'm not saying, and in this country too, yes, you can get some stuff out of other countries if our large corporations are going down and creating these farms, which they are doing. And the idea is labor's going to be cheap, and when farmers get past 60, in fact, I don't know whether you know it, but the price of cattle has gone way up because farmers are not keeping their heifers. And so it's really affecting the price of meat at this point. Anyway, you can actually, I've got a friend that retired down, and I always mispronounce it. And if any of you speak Spanish, you just don't hold this against me. It's kind of Merida. It's close to Cancun. And I have a friend that retired down there from Forestburg about 2 years ago. He loves it. He met the guy that raises the beef. The beef is out in the woods, the pastures. He brings them in, slaughters and sells them. No hormones, no steroids, no antibiotics, nothing. Or when his wife goes to the store, she buys produce that's not been raised. Maybe the land isn't as good as it was, 100 years ago, but at least it hasn't been chemicalized like what we do in this country. And so the reason, now let me add though on beef, a lot of people are growing grass-fed beef. But you got to understand, you got cows that were bred for the feedlot. Short legs, not very big chest. The bigger the chest, the more they can digest grass, the better they convert it, and the better quality of the meat and the taste. So what you've got now is you've got these animals that were bred for the feedlot, and whether they be Herefords or Angus, I don't care. Yes, mine's grass-fed. Well, how many of you heard the expression, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear? Okay? You can't make good tasting beef out of a feedlot driven cow. Now, I'm bragging on mine only because I've got them, but our cattle were raised, well, let's go back, in the 70s in Australia. You're going, everybody up there, all those Yanks are making them bigger. So they had a really great all Angus herd, and they took their bigger ones and started raising them up, and they called them Highlines. And it was a teaching institution. So somebody says, well, why don't we go down and see what happens? So as they got bigger, they were meaner, harder to handle, bigger equipment, better fences. They lost their sense that they didn't taste as good. They didn't have the omega-3s. They didn't have the beneficial fatty acids. But they found as they went down, they all got better. And so these animals are very docile, easy to handle. I was in a pen yesterday because I had 4 of them I took over to the market. And one of the guys says, well, I'm going to go get a hot shot. I said, no, these animals are worried enough. The adrenaline's up. We're not going to shoot them with electricity. So I crawled in, and they thought I was nuts because they thought I'd get kicked. But I know my animals. They don't do that. They're not mean, but they also taste very good. So the point is, there are a few breeds left in the United States that do taste good. The lowlines came in 98, 99 primarily. You've probably, some of you seen the Oreo cows,
Galloway.
Yeah, the belted Galloways. They're for the most part have not been messed because they never got in a commercial system. There's also some Red Devons out of New Zealand, and there's not too many people with those. In fact, I've got a friend in Oklahoma that just bought a bull, so he'll be able to contribute to this in another couple of years. And then there's some Murray Greys that came out of Australia that never got into the system. And you really have to look. But if you're looking for a cow, if you don't do anything else, look for the shortest animal you can find with the shortest legs and the biggest heart girth. You got better quality at least. Now, from the standpoint of feed, my cows don't know what grain is. I was telling them I've got a bull. I was telling you I've got a bull that you'd swear pigged out on grain, and he's never had grain in his life, and he's 7 years old. My bulls will weigh about 1,300 pounds. My cows weigh about 800 pounds. Yesterday I had a steer that went 880, one 820. I had an old cow that wouldn't get pregnant, so we made her into hamburger and gave it to the North Texas Food Bank. And even at her age, she weighed 780 pounds. So my animals will grade high choice and low prime. And the other breeds I'm talking about, I would assume that if they were raised with the right food. Now, ground is important. I use ocean water, humates, and molasses to fertilize my fields. You know, most of the farmland has had all the minerals farmed out. That's one of the things about coming here. Foster's putting those things back in the ground. But when we get, you know, talking about aged farmers at 60, we got the same problem with vegetables. We've got produce being produced on land that's terrible. They brominate it, they do all kinds of things to it, and it's not fit to eat. I think, this is my prediction, and I don't have a crystal ball, but I think we're going to have networks of people in a 50-mile radius, and maybe we all need to contribute. Maybe somebody needs to grow something and somebody something else, and do something with Foster, and Foster does something. We need some kind of, I think, of a central kind of thing, because if we don't eat healthy, why do you think we got all the disease we've got? I mean, this isn't any big secret. Probably the worst thing in the food today is high fructose corn syrup. But if you watch TV, that lovely young lady and the guy with the little girl says, sugar is sugar, it doesn't matter. But it does matter. There's also an interesting book. I haven't told you this. I found somebody sent me I could buy a copy for $317. I bought a used paperback book for $197. And now I found another copy for $317 that I'm not buying. But my point was, the book was called Pure White and Deadly. It was written and published in 1972 by a guy by the name of John Yudkin in England. And his research was what sugar did to people. And he predicted 39 years ago all of this heart disease, all the obesity, all the cancer, and he didn't even know what high fructose corn syrup was. The point is, I'm not telling you anything that's new. I'm just telling you stuff that some people knew, but you know, corporations, and I don't want to sound broken record, but they don't want you to know. That's not the way the system works. That's not how they make money. Now, one of my near and dear projects is, y'all know who Jeffrey Smith is? He wrote a book called Seeds of Deception. And the whole thing is about GMO. They were never tested. They're causing problems. They're causing sterility in horses and cattle. We're pretty sure in people. They're causing cancer and other diseases. And the big four is corn, soy, canola, and cotton. And all those things are in processed foods. I mean, we've got girls getting breasts when they're 7 or 8 years old. What's that from? Well, 6 or 8 hormones in the beef and all this other stuff. So there isn't any healthy food in a regular grocery store. Now, my wife and I buy a lot from Central Market, sometimes Whole Foods, but you still have to be selective because they don't have, I'm sorry, they don't have everything. That's why I joined this when I found out about Foster, because I didn't know it was over here. And then we hit it off, and so he started selling my burger. And so the meat that I took in yesterday will be available in about 3 weeks, and we're going to sell most of it through here if anybody's interested. Any rate, the bottom line is,